OOCS Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 401, Capes and Conundrums. So, what does this all mean? I mean, what's with Arya begins to ask before both her communicator and Claudia's go off at the same time with the same ringtone. I'll get it. Mother does deserve her say in things, Claudia says, putting her communicator on the table and then activating it. It shows the image of a Wimparous woman with a night black shell, a diaphanous black gown that exposes a generous bosom, and a beautiful face similar to her daughter's. Her hair is up in a dew and she looks like all her dreams are coming true at once. Darling, you look amazing. Oh, I am so glad I have that search engine looking for you at all times. You have a what? Claudia asks. Oh, don't you start. You're a mother yourself. You know you never truly stop worrying. That's there for my peace of mind, but oh, it showed me you growing so strong and beautiful, a full primal, my little girl, first goddess of the Wimparas. I'm so proud, and a mother again, adopting a member of a previously unknown species, using time travel to raise her. You're going so far above and beyond, it's inspiring, Elvira gushes at her daughter. Now, while we're all on display for the galaxy to see, what was your motivation, my dear? You've come back all big and strong and more beautiful than ever. Hard to believe but true, and I need to know what inspired you. Claudia's answer is to pick up Arya, who buries her face in her hands. Mom, no. Sorry, darling, but it was you. The need to make sure you were strong enough to fight back and that everyone around you was as tough as possible to keep you alive was what get me going. It's why all the changes are about combat. I was so focused on that we're much more made for fighting. There's nothing wrong with that, Harold notes. And I'm not just saying that as a battle fanatic. All combat skills can easily transfer over into non-combat ones. The sharp eye of a sniper can easily be made into eyes for detail in all sorts of industry, from fashion to cooking to architecture. Strong arms are always useful. A tougher than average soul can just as easily be a reliable foundation to lean on as it is an unrelenting soldier. Your new punching pincers can easily be used for kinetic artwork or legal demolitions, for example. Imagine it, a practiced artist that can start punching a boulder and end up with a statue that just needs some fine detail work to prep it for sale. See, darling, he certainly got his head on straight, Elvira states, which really brings to mind why he would outright state he's part of intelligence. Why isn't that the sneaky and spying part of a military? Why would you just say you're part of it? That's one of the more common questions coming in from viewers. What's going on? Charissa demands, and Harold chuckles. Okay, what are my mission parameters? What am I doing here? Am I watching? People, have I dropped off supplies for another agent? Am I reinforcements for an ongoing mission? Am I emergency extraction in case an agent is discovered? Am I planting listening devices? Am I distracting you people from the actual spies? Am I on the lookout for local talent to recruit in order to turn criminals into law-abiding citizens while they still get to use the hard-learned skills they possess? You may know I'm intelligence, but it doesn't help you. You can't even be sure if looking at me is the right response because for all you know, that's what I want. Or I don't. You don't know it, but it certainly sticks in your head, confuses the heck out of you, and that means you knowing I work in intelligence works to my advantage. So, ha-ha. There is a pause and Observer Wu polishes his glasses during this. You, sir, are a headache to deal with on a good day. Good. Intelligence is supposed to be hard to deal with. Normal soldiers are physical threats. I'm a mental one. Mental in more ways than one most days. Yes, duh. If I'm not being annoying, I'm probably getting something out of it. I'm also getting something out of it if I am being annoying, Harold says, sticking out his tongue. Elvira is outright laughing at this point, and then her image suddenly slides to the side, and there's a clatter as the projection from the communicator suddenly starts broadcasting the legs of a table. It takes a moment for her to write the device. By the way, I count that as a definitive win, so ha. I am very glad I won't have to deal with this once I'm safely back in cruel space. Observer Wu notes, and Harold turns towards him. Giria turns him back. That's enough. Your fun is distracting from the interview, Giria chides him. Sorry, he says with an enormous smile, clearly very amused. Young man, what exactly does your mother think of your behavior? Claudia asks. Well, seeing as I'm a grown man, it's not really her business, he says, and she gives him a look. Am I supposed to be intimidated? Not at all. This is a disapproving look. If you say so, Harold notes before glancing at Observer Wu. So, I have had other interviews with primary primals, or however the proper term goes, both Grandmother First of the Nagasha and Emperor Emmanuel First of the Earthani. They describe the place of their ascension as a large white area outside of time. Is this accurate? It is. It's so strange to describe in that it's very simple, but you can feel the weight to it. It's so very much more as well. I actually don't know the proper words for just how much more there is there, but that whole area of matter and energy is so different. I actually have some thoughts on it, Harold states. Oh, I think that the realm just doesn't have form or appearance until it's given it, that our expectations and understandings shape it, and it is formless without outside influence. Its true form can't really be seen. It's why when you look into it without entering it, you don't really see anything. Aside from the Hargath, but they're one of the few things, perhaps the only things, that live on both sides, Harold says. About that Hargath? As in astral Hargath, the engine nuzzlers? Charissa asks. Oh yes, don't be fooled though. They're the guard beasts we need to navigate around before even trying to do something with the power on the other side. They're harmless on this side of the line, but they're outright vicious on the other, and they hit you so fast and hard that there's no stopping them. I'm calling nonsense on that. I tried taking one as a pet as a little girl, and it died because I tried to show my friends on the planet. They're helpless. On this side, yes, Harold says before rolling up his jacket sleeve. But if I even swipe my arm through that realm, he makes a chopping motion with his arm, fading away for a second and reappearing bloody, cut, and with a few chunks nearly torn out. He channels Axiom to accelerate his healing, and the arm repairs itself on camera. Less than a second, and they were going for the bone, because all the skin and body parts were in the way of my soul. That's what they really want to eat. Axiom keeps them fed, the exhaust from ships makes it tastier, but the real prize that Astral Hargath want are souls, but they can only sense them in the other direction. They ignore armor, and you can't use Axiom to protect yourself. Only primals have the sheer resilience to resist the onslaught. They eat souls? Part of the soul. From what Emmanuel, the Earthani primal, has explained, the soul has multiple portions. At least two parts. The part the Hargath need is not a vital portion of the soul. A soul can survive more or less unharmed even if the other part is stripped away entirely. But that part is what allows the soul to exist in this realm. Meaning the Hargath are like the immune system of the afterlife, Harold explains. Okay, so just to be clear, the Undaunted are looking into methods of ascending into primals and resurrecting the dead. Isn't everyone? Harold asks. Name one government that doesn't have at least some funds dedicated to medical research. Name one society that doesn't want to be better. That's what we're doing. Do you humans do anything normal? Maybe, but I have yet to hear a proper definition of normal, Harold says, and Observer Wu sighs. Problem, sir? Wu does not answer. Okay, so if engine nuzzlers become flying teeth that ignore armor and axiom enhancement, then how did this happen? Charissa asks. Something scattered them. My strange eyes? They can see into the other direction. At first I thought I wasn't seeing much in there because I couldn't process it, but I figured out that I can't see anything because nothing in there exists on the visible spectrum. You just interpret it that way. But I can see the occasional bit of movement, and every now and then, a Hargath is right in my face. But distance doesn't matter there. If there's one, then there's millions just a hair's breadth away. But what happened? What scattered them? She presses and he shrugs. I don't know. It's why I've been poking at my people to get some more of the scientifically inclined here, Harold says. If that, whatever happened, can be duplicated or performed on demand, then there's no telling what we can do. The sheer power from that dimension is far greater than axiom. Just a moment of use is enough to overload any system it's in. And if the system can take it, it runs so hard and so thoroughly, the system starts to melt anyways. It's too strong. But if we were to have systems hardened and designed to use it, then we could enhance almost any tech. But the trick is actually studying because the Hargath are in the way. And of course, there's other things in there. They haven't interfered yet, but there is something else in there. Beyond the place of ascension, beyond the afterlives, beyond the Hargoth and souls and travelers. There are other things there. For all we know, the Hargoth are keeping us safe from something. We don't know anything for certain. This field is so new as a science, we're going in almost blind. I wish better questions are being asked, but the girls filtering it are being inundated with endless questions of, are you okay? Didn't that hurt? How much damage did they do? And engine nuzzlers did that? In order, yes, I'm okay. Yes, it did hurt. They nearly tore my arm to pieces. And yes, that's what engine nuzzlers do if you poke into the other direction. And you don't have any idea how to get past them? Well, we do know one method, but it's either based entirely on luck or is such a long-term investment that it's not happening for at least 1,000 years. What? Engine nuzzlers never stop growing, but the smaller ones avoid the bigger ones. We think they might be cannibals. So if you can find or rear one to be big enough to scare off all other astral Hargoth, you have a safe zone near them. Although safe is a relative thing, as when they get that big, the basic energy discharges of a Hargoth can and will break starships with ease. But if someone could, maybe, but for all that they're omnipresent, have you actually heard of anyone actually containing an astral Hargoth without killing it or it vanishing on them? I've looked it up. It's on record that it's a waste of time trying to contain them, and the best we can do is set up nets that stop them from getting too deep into engines and thrusters when they're on this side of things. But we're planet side. Astral Hargoth do not survive on planets. Too much gravity and atmosphere. That's why the ones here are on the other side. They are here right now. A lot of them, actually. They're waiting to see if I'll stick my hand in again because they really want a piece of me. I can confirm that. It's very distracting, Claudia admits. Do you think they'll clear anytime soon? Observer Wu asks, uncertain how to feel about the fact that there's basically hungry spirits more or less surrounding him. Probably not. I think we should finish this interview up elsewhere because I can barely see Claudia across the table from me. There's so many of the little biters just there, Harold says, and Arya starts trying to reach something in the air, even as Insight is looking around in confusion. Sounds like we should take this interview on the road then. After a light meal, it would be rude to come to this lovely dinner and not even order anything after taking up one of its tables for so long, to say nothing of distracting the staff and customers. OOCS into a wider galaxy part 402. Capes and conundrums. Do all humans eat as much as you do? Claudia asks. I'm a soldier, so that's a high-intensity job. That means I need more calories. But I didn't eat too big a helping, Harold answers, aware but unashamed in the fact he had ordered the most food. We don't naturally absorb axiom for sustenance, so we need to make up the difference. That makes sense. But that was still a lot of food, Ira says. It's normal for them. You should see a whole force of them eating at once. There is so much food, and it's good food. They really like food, Insight says. Which reminds me, the world you're going to, not Lacron, is the colony plan to make it a farming world, a manufacturing world, or some other form of world. At the moment, there are no long-term plans for it. We all just want our space and a clean new beginning, Claudia says. A second chance can be worth more than its weight in Axiom ride in the right circumstances. Do you think that might become a thing? A world of second chances? Harold asks, and Charissa nearly trips in her eagerness to turn to Claudia. Maybe. We will see. After all, some people just use second chances to escape from the consequences of their own actions. Wouldn't that be everyone who wants a second chance to some extent? Harold pushes. There is a line between someone who just wants to avoid trouble and someone who needs a second chance. Maybe, but even people who are just avoiding trouble can become better. Harold argues, and Claudia looks considerate. Young man, you might want to back off that, Elvira says, before paying more attention to her daughter. Although, with how strong my little girl is now, I suppose the risk is a lot less. If it's not too delicate or, no, never mind. Asking after things like that on live broadcast is a little too much. Harold cuts himself off, giving the camera a direct look. It's not that bad, it's just, me and Mother aren't the best when it comes to finding husbands, Claudia says, and Elvira's look is somewhere between fascinated and proud. Yes, there have been mistakes, but we usually come out the better for it. I wouldn't trade anything for Claudia, and nothing could tempt her away from Arya, Elvira states. Still, you've eaten. Things need to get moving with all those ghost fish getting in the way for Harold and my little girl. So what next? Next, I get insight here, a new wardrobe. She has nothing but uniforms and armor to her name. Nothing to accentuate how pretty she can be. A prettiness she's very much trying to hide, Harold notes. And she is a subject that's still rather sensitive. Her commanders are overly concerned, Claudia asserts. Are you certain? I got a very good look into Vishanian life. I also more easily recall a lot of paperwork and legal forms I've read in the past. Things I just skimmed over, I now remember clearly, but the Vishanian people rate as refugees and could very, very easily have their patches of space registered as both their own and legally keep others out to the extent they could legally fire on any trespassers, Claudia states. Yeah, but they have a great deal of generational trauma that's been passed out like candy, Harold notes. But, well, I've been working to help calm and rehabilitate them whenever we cross paths. I don't want to just start spitting secrets I've sussed out and lose what little trust I have. And how in the name of my greatest grandmother Thessalia is your endless teasing, playing, and mockery calming and rehabilitating? Because I treat them like trusted allies, whether I trust them or not. They know how to deal with suspicion. They know how to deal with fear and ignorance too, but not trust, not acceptance. They need those traits. So I provide not only an example, but supply it in ample amounts, Harold explains with a grin. After all, how do you respond to someone that treats you closer to family than an enemy? Reciprocity, Claudia asks. In part. There's also the idea that I'm basically teaching them to calm down, Harold replies. Now then, if you're willing to indulge me, I want to see how far we can push this. Do you mind if I make a quick call? To do what? Claudia asks, and Harold motions for her to lean down and he whispers in her ear. That's adorable. I approve. We'll have to see if the other girls approve as well, Harold notes as he pulls out his communicator. Scene change. Vishanian Admiralty. There was a dead silence in the council chamber as they watched their secrecy crumble at the hands of a literal goddess. A goddess that had apparently been among them for years and no one had ever known. No one could ever know. How do you detect something that is not there and will not be there for decades? How do you keep secrets from time-traveling nonsense? This entire affair with humanity has been nothing but a mess of security breaches from the beginning. We should have simply retreated and hidden rather than risk this mess. You will be quiet, Admiral Bleed. Your previous votes on this matter were to attack or attempt to vandalize the human ships and persons, despite the fact that their primary protection was a man that, according to every report, is nothing short of a ludicrous enemy to fight. Had you advocated then what you advocate now? For we might have avoided this situation, yes, but the applicant would still be pressing their investigations, if not outright expanding in our direction. And that's to say nothing of what the humans would be doing. They're a chaotic and dangerous species, and our efforts in Applic space, which were always risky, brought us to their attention. Our security is... A fist slams down and cuts off Grand Admiral Longitude. The doors to the chamber open, and numerous Vishanian pour out in full battle armor and weapons ready. There is a silence. Then Admiral Bleed stands up. That is enough. I have heard your simpering excuses and poorly thought out justifications. You have either reached some form of senility or are an active traitor to the Vishanian people. In either way, I am finished with it. I am finished with you, and so are the Vishanian. This fleet is now under martial law. Guards, escort these weak-willed traitors to their brig and keep them there. Admiral Bleed orders, and at the gestures of the weapons Grand Admiral's Longitude, Bombard, Duty, as well as Admiral Fallows, are all forced to rise and leave the chamber, leaving Grand Admirals Bleed, Destiny, and Signal to decide the fate of the fleet. So we are Vish once more. How? Grand Admiral Longitude is cut off by a coil-shot round rocketing so close to her hood it dislodges a few scales and she starts to bleed. Be quiet, the Vish woman states with barely contained rage. Admiral Longitude withdraws her hood and looks back at the girl. The helmet conceals the eyes and face, but she grabs the woman's gaze and holds it. Another guard shoves her. No axiom bullshit, In a cell, now. I don't need Axiom to frighten cowards, Longitude states imperiously. It takes mere minutes for her to sit on the cot in the brig, a transparent energy shield allowing her to see that Bombard is in the cell opposite. Lean lets her see duty, and the pink woman points across to herself into the cell next to Longitude and mouths the word Fallows. She nods. There is a crackling hum as the floor between cells is electrified, and then a small screeching creature, a scompi, is thrown between them. It dies almost instantly, and the electrical charge quickly cooks the corpse into smoking charcoal. Scompis are tiny scavengers that had gotten into the original cloning labs and had kept alive and continued breeding despite several efforts to exterminate them. Many Vishanyan girls had made a point of feeding in them, taking one or two of the small fluffy creatures that travel by hopping as pets. They made good companions, and there was an underground fashion industry for who had the prettiest one and who could dress them up the best. Bombard's eyes flick up to the camera above Longitude, and Longitude offers a slight smile back. Then her fellow Grand Admiral stands up and grabs the camera in her cell, channeling Axiom and breaking it. It was pointed at Admiral Longitude, and now she has the privacy to start moving. Longitude phases into intangibility, slips down between the tri-tight reinforced energy cables, and slips down and through the gap between the cables, then grabs onto them at the underside and moving through the maintenance tunnel. Senility? Really? Little girl, I was doing this before there was any power in my actual favor. And we've long had the technology to get past any actual senility, Admiral Longitude mutters to herself. Scene change. Bringer of enemy torment. The simple call ends and she considers it was an automated recall order, something she should obey at a moment's notice. It is her duty, the mission parameters are clear and obvious. However, and humans are fond of saying that anything before a however or but may as well be ignored. However, this abrupt change in behavior and orders is concerning. This mission was too important for basic automated order. It was also clearly the wrong thing to do. So much was happening here and now, and it would require the abandonment of the huge amount of progress and investment in this area. And the door opens, and she barely has to even turn her head to see calculated velocity of victory and unending rain of retribution. You received automated return orders as well? We have. This does not fit in any stretch, Velocity states. It's fake, Rain asserts. But you can't tell me how you know that, Torment asks. It's a pattern break so damn big that it snaps believably. The term is strains credulity, Torment corrects her. Not this time it ain't, Rain says, and Torment pauses for a moment at the deliberately bad choice of words. Still, we can agree that these orders are extremely unusual, if not a nearly guaranteed to be the result of, I don't know, some kind of infiltration or hack, Velocity says. A coup? Torment offers. I dearly hope not. No matter who wins such a battle, the Vishanyan lose, Velocity states. We have forces all over. No matter what's going on, if these orders are heading out to every cell, then so much is about to be lost, Rain says. Which is why we are not. This order is a breach in standard protocol and operating procedures. Many smaller cells will receive these kinds of orders. Yes, but high-ranking cells like our own, or those in unusual circumstances, are directly contacted by our superiors, Torment states. So what? We do nothing? We pretend that we didn't get the orders? What happens if they're legit and they call us to ask what the hell is going on? Rain presses. We demand answers in turn. We are Vishanyan, not Vish. We are not slaves. We are not products. We are people. We may be in hiding, but we are free. We are strong. We interact with the galaxy at our leisure, not its. We need to tell Harold. Your husband could very well be the reason we are getting these recall orders, Torment states. If it's a coup, then it's nearly guaranteed. After all, his recent biggest move is dragging Insight out into the public view, and she's not even trying to hide, Velocity says in a concerned tone. I know. What is that girl thinking? Torment demands. Probably less than we expected. If she's been listening to Miss Shellfish her whole life, then sticking around her must be the most natural and normal thing going on to her, Rain says before her and Velocity's communicators start going off. Rain just has a text, but Velocity is getting a call. Mine just says to talk to you, Rain says as Velocity listens to Harold. She waves her off. Are you certain that's the best idea? Velocity, I don't think I could engineer a better introduction to the galaxy, even with an unlimited budget. I mean, I might, but there's no way in hell I could get away with it, Harold admits. I'm almost afraid to ask, Velocity asks. Probably for the best. So what do you think? Harold asks her. I'll ask the others and get you your answer, Velocity says before hanging up. What's he up to? He wants all three of us to go down and have a shopping spree, with the one coming up on Insight, both to help her through it, and to introduce the Vishanyan to the galaxy in a completely positive light, as the friends and co-workers to the newly ascended goddess, explaining that I am pregnant, have Rain play up her new youth, make us seem like people that others just haven't bumped into before, rather than anything to get too excited about. Such a thing would be an open and blatant defiance to the Admiralty, Torment states. Well, if they're going to act, I am like idiots without an explanation, Rain states. It's still open defiance. And if we say no, then Harold will ask why. And do you think that his unrelenting curiosity won't find our latest orders, if orders they are? Velocity asks. Nope, honestly, with how much he scans and examines things, we have maybe an hour or two after he's distracted by the primal before he figures it out, Rain says. Then we need to whisper in his ear and have our story straight, explain that the situation here is too dangerous to simply let fallow. Admiral Fallows will appreciate that at least, for the wordplay if nothing else. Capes and conundrums. There is a tension in all three other Vishanyan as they arrive. They're keeping it out of their axiom and mostly out of their body language. But all three of them are holding their hands closer to their hidden weapons, and their hoods are twitching ever so slightly. They're nervous and uncomfortable. Now, is it because of Claudia, exposure, or something else? The first two are fine, but if it's something else, he can't shake the thought it's something else, which has him concerned. Still, he needs to play the part properly, so he offers a big smile. And here they are, now. Let's see about seeing what's best to see one of you ladies in. He reaches up a bit to pat Rain on the head, as if she's actually a teenager, and gives Velocity a hug before reaching up to guide her head down for a kiss. A quick peck, and he whispers what's happened, in her language. She looks startled. Not much, but somewhat. Already? I pay attention. Strange orders, nothing is making sense. She says, and he nods. It'll take some arm twisting, but if you want, we can get back there quickly. What? How? The sorcerers. The lush forest of Sobin Ride is at the edge of Vishanyan space. Sorcerers can switch which forest they're attuned to, and we have 100 undaunted sorcerers of the dark forest. They can switch to the astral forest, come here, switch to the lush forest, and bring us right onto Sobin Ride in under an hour. Easy. Would you? She asks. I need to know the mission parameters first, and we can't take a ship. We'll have to grab one while there. We would. I'll talk to the others. Keep your friendly face on. This is potentially serious. Velocity bids him. You children do know I can both hear and understand you, correct? Claudia says, speaking the Vishanyan language openly. Harold slowly turns to her. I wasn't entirely sure. How could you not be? Not about the language, about your manners. It's rude to eavesdrop, he remarks, and she lets out a slight laugh. You are cheeky, she states, and that doesn't mean you weren't rude. What's everyone saying? Speak galactic trade, please, Charissa pipes up. Harold offers her a smile. Oh, there's something happening with our Vishanyan allies, so we were speaking in their language. Incidentally, this is my wife. Calculated velocity of victory. The shrimp, who's taller than me, is unending rain of retribution, and the purple one is bringer of enemy torment. Velocity, rain, and torment are better ways to address them. For convenience, if nothing else, Harold explains. So what's going on? What are the Vishanyan? That's for them to decide. They're in an interesting place in their history. You find all sorts of interesting things if you just pay attention and notice the details in the galaxy around you, Harold says confidently. Now then, I think we were about to see how best we can flatter the Vishanyan form. Unfortunately, human men literally don't have the same eyes for this that women do. So I'm going to take a bit of a back seat in this. You girls have some fun. I need to make a quick call. Scene change. Vishan space. No one's really sure what the original design idea was for their ship architecture. It has been modified, but it must have been for a more agile species or an extension of a species that allowed them to easily reach upwards. The maintenance tunnels were the floors and ceilings of their ships and stations. Other species had them in the walls, mostly. Lidris, the various spider-based species, Metak and several other more agile races, preferred building their ships that way. But the Lidris preferred the ships capable of being filled with water. And none of the designs of the original ships had that. And the Metak like their ships large so they have room to burn off their energy, which the ships were not like. The various Arachna liked to have a certain type of wall material that made it easier to climb around, and that wasn't present. Every hint towards one species or another had an equal number of hints against it, but in the end it created a very robust building style, with passageways in the floors and ceilings to offer repairs, but very stout reinforced walls to the ship. These are all facts that Grand Admiral Longitude is very familiar with. She's a technician who leads. A battlefield engineer. She not only learned how the ships were put together when they were all Vish, she repaired them, maintained them, and was able to spoof signals and toy with the equipment. Check the maintenance tunnels. The traitor is no doubt using them to hide like the craven she is. A guard calls out and she starts shifting around. Panels are opening at random and she just squeezes herself behind some piping and into the natural shadows of the tunnel. A light is shown in, and it only deepens the shadows hiding her instead. This little place where the atmospheric vents and hydropipes met was a natural cubby. She could feel herself crushing a few small abandoned scompy nests. Then the little cretins betraying her people actually leave the panel to the tunnel open. That is a severe breach in protocol. The panels are there to protect the life-preserving mechanisms of these ships as much as they're for aesthetics. They don't just look good, they keep the damn ships from needed excessive maintenance. One misfired shot or random thing tossed due to roughhousing, and it can get jammed or damage something vital. If they weren't her active enemies, she'd have them doing laps until they wept for being this careless. Basics are basics for a reason, girls. Once they're gone, she shimmies out of her hiding spot, dislodging some bits of nest, and they fall to the floor. She starts shifting through things, staying easily out of sight of the security cameras. Bombard's concern for her girls was turning against them now. Cameras that could pierce their stealth in case a girl had a panic attack or a medical emergency and couldn't decloak for some reason. Useful, but also annoying when a hostile power had the cameras. And they did have the cameras, the alarms would have gone up by now. Bleed and her petty usurpers hadn't made a big announcement yet. Not one way or another, meaning that they didn't have enough support to outright execute them or declare themselves in power. No, they needed to drag her and her loyalists through the dirt first, soil their reputations, and then they could get rid of them. I am going to be so disappointed if this is just fear as they implied. This is much too far for fear, she mutters to herself as she skitters along the underside of the piping. You never really forget how to get around places your life depends on navigating. Down the pipes, into the next tunnel, and she avoids giving away her position, despite the fierce need to click her tongue at just how stupid these girls are being. What is going on? How did they miss this boiling up, and what was the source? It couldn't just be fear. Fear makes people back down or retreat. It only builds up like this if a problem lasts a long time, is given time to ferment, which means this grievance isn't the changes. They're a few months long at most, and the Vishan mind doesn't operate so fast as to have their fears grow so much. They must have missed something in the scans somewhere, some kind of mental disorder or defect. Couple that with a charismatic girl and you can get the recipe for dishater. But who? Why? She puts it aside as her scuttling along the ceiling takes her over the security station. She knows the ship template so well she can navigate it distracted, upside down, and avoiding trouble. The vents in the room are already dislodged, but no one is looking up. More the fool to them, the instinct has most girls look ahead or down a little. As a tall race, every girl that's gone out to the field has gained the instinct of looking down, and the habit has spread. The security room is empty. That's obviously a trap. She looks around for some kind of sensor or camera, but there's nothing. Not on the ceiling, she can't find anything on the floor, and as she slowly lowers herself into the room, She finds nothing under the desks, rigged into the chair, or in the control panels. There's some evidence that there was a fight. Superficial damage to the consoles and such, but nothing else. The monitors are even still on. What is going on? Scene change. Scathach. What did I tell you, darling? Black goes with everything. Elvira says as Insight emerges, looking unsure of herself. It's all right. Just because I'm not there where you can't see me doesn't mean I'm not here for you, Claudia assures her. She ducks away from the cameras by opening her hood and vanishing. What is it? Claudia asks, as Insight comes closer, and she hugs the clearly distraught and confused Vishanyan. I'm not actually good enough on my own, am I? Insight asks. Oh, honey, there's nothing wrong. Get the camera back now, or I'm reducing it to atoms. Claudia starts to comfort Insight before threatening the young Tret woman getting far too close with a camera. She gets her space. Thank you. Now, Insight beyond simple understanding, I want you to understand something. Everything you did yourself. All I did was give you a few little nudges and some encouragement. Most of your training and testing was physical. No amount of whispering to you is going to make you run faster or jump higher. I wasn't making you more accurate or stronger. You earned all that on your own. And remember the last test? I didn't give you answers. I helped read questions. You do struggle with reading and aren't the best with people, but you just need a little help with that and can do so much. You have so much to be proud about. And if my being your cheerleader was all you needed to get it, then you got it yourself, understand? The hug is fully returned at this point. Insight slowly retracts her hood and fades back into visibility, fully embraced by Claudia. The camera showing this scene to the whole of Scathach also has Harold in the background, talking to a bespectacled human man in hushed tones. A sense of strange urgency between the two of them, as they are soon joined by an Apuk boy whose horns go more or less straight up. The whispering between them continues, and there is some nodding before both the glasses-wearing man and the Apuk vanish. Harold throws the camera a cheeky wink and walks up. He then starts speaking in the Vishanyan language. I can get us to Sobenride easily enough, but I can do better. He gestures for the other Vishanyan to come closer, and he outright whistles at the outfit that Velocity is trying on. Apparently, she prefers corsets over bras. She can work it, especially with a flowing little ruffled skirt. The naturally pink cheeks darkening a little is his reward for that. What's happening? Torment asks. She's trying a dress similar to Insight's on, but gray instead of black. I can get us all, and your troops, to Sobenride, but it will be without your ships. I can, however, if you give me official coordinates and passcodes, get a ship directly into Vishanyan space, so you and your team can return in short order. Do I have that much faith from you? He asks, and Torment stares directly into his eyes. That's whoa, Rain says. Even if we have this faith in you, there's no way that such a ship won't be shot down entering our territory. Not if it has the proper transponder codes for a ship captured by an active Vishanyan force. It will look like a successful salvage operation, nothing more. This is your solution? We receive strange orders and you press us to commit high treason? Torment asks. I'm giving you options. You're allowed to say no. I cannot push anything further than I already have without your direct aid. There's another option, Insight says. Why not have part of the team do the flying? We don't have to surrender codes or information. Just take the ship. It can be swept for bugs or tracking devices. If it's clean, we can just use that. That sounds like a good idea to me. It keeps your secrets, but lets you get to help as needed, Claudia states. There's also the fact that someone may be watching this, Harold notes, looking right at the cameras. That if there is some form of conspiracy or coup taking place, then they'll know we're about to blow everything wide open. So, if there is something of the sort, then I apologize to the victims on the other side of things. We're working with limited knowledge here, after all. Scene change. Torrent's linked to concerns of Vishanyan space. Her jaw outright drops at that. It was one thing to discover that the security console had a direct feed into the recon department, which it should not have, but finding out the link was high enough quality for her to make up Harold more or less talking to her directly. She needs to sort this and fast before anyone gets any dumb ideas. dumber ideas. OOCS, Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 404. Capes and Conundrums. Yes, Harold asks immediately as his communicator goes off. He takes a couple of steps away from the group and sets up a sound-baffling privacy barrier before turning away to cover up his lip movement. We've managed to recover not only hard drives from the enemy ships, but decoded a lot too. It was easy to the point we're doubting the veracity of what we found. But you need to know that the synth controlling those ships, yes, it was apparently a singular synth. Apparently deliberately has no backups for itself as part of its belief system. Possibly a good thing, if the claim is true. I have doubts. So do we all. We'll cut to the chase. There's basically a manifesto here making a lot of references to some kind of parasite called the HFY, which crudely translates to endless still. The manifesto goes into detail of the sheer damage it caused and the devastation and ruin pursuit and use of it brought about. Why would anyone pursue a parasite? Apparently, it could prevent death and offered a complete form of immortality. But if someone used a healing coma, they lost it. Really? That's odd. Apparently, the synth was so traumatized by everything that happened that they've been hunting down anything that looks even close to what the hell the HFY or its supposed Mo was, which includes cloning efforts to restore lost species, because the HFY were capable of that, restoring even fossils, but always with a cost that was never apparent until it was too late. I know this is rich from me, but dial back the drama, just tell me what happened. Increasing insanity until the infested were completely unreasonable. Couple that with immortality, yeah, I can see what kind of problem that would be. What was their solution to it? Saturation bombardment. Cleansing with fire, basically. The only way to kill the HFY was to reduce it all to ash. And no, it's not in the manifesto why they didn't use healing comas to clean the things out if they were somehow anti-parasite. Okay, good work. Keep at it. We have additional nonsense here, Harold says. And I know there's a betting pool. 500 credits say that they didn't use healing comas because the coma would benefit the parasite instead and it would grow or breed out of control if they used one. All right, noted. We're going to keep digging now. Good luck with the mess you're in. I make my own luck, otherwise I can't get the sheer amount of bullshit I need. Harold replies and there's a slight chuckle on the other side. The line goes dead and Harold tucks away the device. He turns back to the rest of the group. So what was that about? Velocity asks. Update on the salvage and hacking into the systems of the hostile ships. They found a manifesto and what might be the trauma that turned the apparently one synth that was. Controlling it all into some kind of death cultist? No one's sure if we believe it yet, but that's what we found so far. Really? Is it classified or? It's not classified, it's unconfirmed and unreliable. It could be that we found a legitimate manifesto detailing the grievances and pain that forged a synth into a monster. Or maybe we stumbled onto the made-up stories of a murderous psychopath envisioning themselves as some great champion of purity and wholeness. It could go either way, Harold says. That's bad. Is there anything that might confirm it? Jiria asks, slithering up. She had kept some distance from the Vishanyan to stay off camera and had taken the time to do up her hair in a bun with a pair of axiom totems holding the bun together like chopsticks. Apparently their whole obsession with death and keeping things dead started due to a parasite called the HFY. It apparently preserves the life of its host beyond what even a healing coma can do, but eventually drives the host insane. Violently? There is a touch of eagerness in the Nagasha's voice. Harold returns it with an eager grin, then shrugs. I don't know, I assume some of them at least. I don't think a person would be traumatized to the point of joining or forming a death cult if the insanity was compulsory rhyming or nudity, Harold notes. Could be quite the story there, Jiria says, looking contemplative. Potentially a fictional one, though, Velocity says, and she nods. True. I'm sorry, what's going on? The energy in this area is... Teresa asks, walking over with a camera drone following closely behind. I've got men sifting through the debris of the destroyed ships. They've found some things. Unpleasant things. How unpleasant? Information on a parasite named HFY that either traumatized a synth into madness or was made up by an insane synth. We're not sure which one it is yet, Harold says, and Charissa blinks. Everyone has a story, young lady, even if the story is simple or even stupid. We all have stories. It's not as easy as simply evil, isn't it? Oh, she was evil. But what drove her to it and why still exists? Don't make the mistake of confusing understandable reactions for sympathetic or reasonable actions. If the HFY was real and she saw the damage firsthand, then yes, I understand why someone like that would be terrified of anything that resists death. But I don't condone it and very much condemn anyone that would react in such a way, even if I get their thought process. Get it? No. Understanding is not acceptance, nor is it sympathy or approval. I think I understand why the synth did what she did. I would still fight with all I have against her in a moment's notice if she were to reveal herself still alive somehow. Do you get it now? Yes. Thank you for explaining, Carissa says, and Harold smiles. You asked earlier how I could be an intelligence while being so blatant. I gave you the answer that can be summed up as, you still don't know what I'm up to. And it's true, but there's a second answer. Intelligence at its heart is paying attention and understanding it. In that light, everyone who I talk to is, in a sense, part of my intelligence operations. I pay attention, I learn, I seek to understand. That's the beating heart of intelligence. And it's such a basic truth of life that everything from simple animals to the richest queens and empresses all do it. We just do it a bit more deliberately is all. Make sense? He asks, and Charissa follows his gaze directly into the camera. Why are you looking right into the camera? Because I guarantee you there's someone in the audience that needed to hear that, Harold states. Scene change. Vishan in space. She did need to hear that. A little reminder to get her focused again about how to possibly get out of this situation. Of course, this is leading to the question if subject mirror is as dangerous as they assumed at first, even worse, or just the kind of magnetic personality that throws so much casual wisdom in his words to seem as smart as possible and encourage others to listen. A lot of people in authority do that one, quoting philosophers and scientists without either understanding or practicing their wisdom. It can't be fear, not totally. Overthrowing the senior admiralty is a scary thing to do. So if there was fear beyond that drove them to do it, then they would have picked up on it. So what is the motivation? The rapid change. The causes are all external, an intercepted operation, followed by the standard response being intercepted in turn. Yes, the humans were chaotic force on this, and the sheer number of offerings and temptations they were presenting gave any woman with a lick of sense the sensation that they were about to step into a trap. But that wasn't it either. They had confirmed that the care package that Saul Sharon had offered them wasn't bait and was in fact legitimate. Even digging into his past when he takes the form of Quozothus hadn't revealed anything. And hadn't that been interesting, to learn he had another name for when he was on the job and working the field of eugenics to pull entire species out of genetic bottlenecks and prevent inbreeding in numerous societies. Granted, it was usually through wife training and matchmaking with exotic husbands, all to ensure happy families with diverse and strong blood that had little to no risk of deformity. Thankfully, he wouldn't have to be Quozothus around them. Their cloning method ensured genetic diversity. The sound of nearby movement draws her out of her contemplation, and she uses an old trick to haul herself up into the upper maintenance tunnel in moments. She has to resist the urge to cough, as it is not easy on the neck though. Never was, but when she was young, she had no idea just how bad it was for her and did it way too much. Thank goodness for healing comas and the near-endless derivatives. She's already into the next room by the time lights start shining up into the tunnel. The violence involved she had seen hints of tell her that the ship and crew are not fully compromised, which is sloppy, stupid, and very, very short-sighted. Oh, she mutters to herself softly as she figures out part of the puzzle. It's all sloppy like this because the conspirators are out of time. Whatever they were planning and why, the exposure of insight, and through her their entire species, had accelerated the conspirators' timetable to the point they were scrambling in desperation to salvage anything, if their original plan was even partially viable. She takes a left along the tunnels and finds, good to know that tradition is still alive, she mutters to herself as she gets her hands on some stored tools. Bond metal rolls, wire cutters, wrenches, and screwdrivers of all types. The hand kit of any technician, And now all she needs to get things moving. 10 minutes later. Grand Admiral Bombard smirks as the force field goes out, and a gob of spit lets her know the electrical field isn't active on the floor. What took you so long? Grand Admiral Duty asks, even as the door opens, and a bundle of armor and weapons clatter to the ground. Sorry, Subject Mirror is aware something is going on from thousands of light years away and is making plans to be here within. I'd say 24 hours at this rate. Well, he doesn't waste time, Bombard notes gleefully as she quickly slips on a breastplate and shield bracer. We shouldn't probably finish up whatever this stupid coup is about before he gets here. I don't think the girls are quite mentally prepared for an alien walking our corridors. Not yet, at least. Someone will do something stupid, he'll retaliate, and things are just going to escalate, Admiral Fallows notes as she starts with the shield bracer and then goes for the breastplate. No doubt, Grand Admiral Longitude states as she walks in and starts passing out weapons. Girls, we're going to get bloody again. Vishanyan, fighting Vish once more. I'd hoped we would never see that again, Bombard says morosely. Lot of girls are going to be on light duty for years when this is done. I might end up on light duty after this. Sister against sister. This is madness, Fallows says as she checks her rifle. Has there been death already? The girls I took down for the gear are unconscious and tied up. By the time they're found, our escape and arming will be old news, Longitude states. Now, Subject Mirror is being a cheeky piece of work. He offered some helpful advice, and it helped me realize that we're having a half-formed conspiracy forced on us because the exposure of our species is interfering with their plans, which means we have a final option to force this to a head. Total exposure, Duty notes grimly. Supposing we're forced to resort to it, how? We need to get control of a specific comm station, put a timer on things. If we can directly contact Subject Mirror again, he is connected in such a way as to basically show everything. If we give him everything in orders to expose it all, he's liable to do it. He thrives on such chaos, Fallows states before smirking. I've looked into human culture. He'll be amused by the idea that just talking to him is the equivalent of a nuclear option. Nuclear? Isn't that a dirty energy source? It can be. It's also a potential weapon payload that has a yield comparable to a bombardment cannon blast and leaves behind harmful radiation. Oh, fun. Nice to be reminded that humans have so many different, slowly more deadly versions of every type of weapon in existence. OOCS, Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 405, Capes and Conundrums. Just for clarity, is some kind of insane military engagement going on even as we speak? Carissa asks. You're going to need to be a lot more specific. Militaries are big organizations and do a lot of different things at once. I'm currently abreast of a salvage operation, numerous protection details, a few research and investigation initiatives, several transport-based operations, building the profiles of a few people and updating dozens, as well as public relations, and that's just the things I can casually admit. Narrow it down, girl, Harold states in an amused tone. Does everything amuse you? Edeculate well as say no, but if I'm calm and amused, it seems like I'm in control, and perception is a big part of reality. Harold states and Charissa stares at him. So you're not in control? Oh, I am, but the first step to controlling reality is to control yourself. If you can't do that, then what chance do you have? Harold asks, and she blinks. This is going into philosophy so fast, I don't know what's even going on anymore. Do you want me to turn that up or down? I can speak in wise proverbs and sayings from here on out if you want me to. I'm an accommodating sort. No, you can't. The truths behind the world are all connected, and much like water itself, if you stay still, you stagnate. In order to be pure in mind and body, one must flow like a river rather than sit like a pond. Oh no, Charissa says, and Claudia starts giggling into a hand. The healthiest rivers are fed from many sources, and you must be like that river. If your only source of wisdom and knowledge runs dry, then you lose what makes you whole. But if you have many sources of wisdom, then the risk of such a thing is far lesser. You're actually doing this, but one must not mistake calm water for stagnant. A calm-looking ocean has a great many currents that churn it. A stagnant pool is infection and doom. Please stop. Okay. Harold waves her off, then looks right at the camera and, I will turn it off if you start hijacking the news for some kind of strange, impromptu, and generalized therapy session, Charissa promises. Is that how one makes the press back off? Good to know, Harold asks. Really? Is that? Claudia begins and Elvira huffs. Well, of course, you're changing the theme and tune to everything. The first rule of showbiz is to give people what they want. If they don't know they want it, that's one thing. But giving what they don't want is of course going to drive the viewers away. Anyone with even a lick of sense can figure that out. You'd be surprised how many people are outright senseless, especially in showbiz, Harold counters. That's because a lot of people want the rewards of one job or another without actually knowing what it takes to make it, Elvira states. It's often the sign that an organization is dying when the talentless but ambitious are infesting it like a disease. I wonder if that's relating to anything, Harold asks, looking right at the camera. Stop it, Charissa states. Stop what? You're talking to someone through the news. If you need to talk to them, just call them, Charissa protests. I don't have their number. And this is easier than finding it? Currently, yes. What is going on? Classified. I think? You think? You don't know? Fun, ain't it? What is even happening? I suspect a great deal, but I can't confirm anything, so I can only poke at it through your camera because I am reasonably certain they're watching the news. What in the name of the goddess? It's Claudia, Claudia says, and Charissa turns to her. Back to Harold, and something seems to have basically caused a glitch in her brain. Mr. Jameson, do you ever stop? Claudia asks. I sleep, Harold answers. So you greet the dawn with a will to cause mayhem? Of course not. I sleep in on occasion. Scene change. Vishan space. This? He's aware of us. He's actively subverting us as we watch him. The voice of Admiral Signal protests from the next room, and Longitude uses a trick and outlines a circle on the door with her hands, sharing her invisibility with a small amount of the door to look clean through. It's not Signal herself. She's on broadcast mode of another vicious communicator. They slowly open the door and slip in quietly as Admiral Signal goes on a larger and larger rant about Harold, about how he's a corrupting influence even at great distance, and how he must be stopped. She had said similar things before, but never with this manic edge to it. It appears that without the senior and more rational parts of the Admiralty to hold her back, she was losing her mind. The call ends without much rhyme or reason, and at that point Admiral Duty suddenly pins the girl from behind. Hey, you're doing great so far in the training exercise. Training exercise? Of course you don't think we'd just have a coup out of nowhere, do you? Admiral Duty asks in a smug and assured tone. Now you did get the premise right. I'm supposed to interrogate you and such. The little flex open and shut with her hood lets the Vish know that she's not taking things seriously and is openly friendly and playful. Now what's wrong, dear? This isn't real? Why would you think this is real? What did they tell you? Admiral Duty asks, sounding genuinely curious. They told me that the senior Admiralty were hoarding power and refusing to listen to the concerns of the other ranks, that you were selling us out, and the junior Admiralty were the only ones who understood. The Vish says, and Admiral Duty lets her go. Okay, there's clearly been some miscommunication in the ranks. I'm going to let you go, and we're going to have a talk. We are not enemies, understand? Yes, okay, she says, and Admiral Duty lets her go. She turns around looking confused. What is going on? I think you should explain to me what you believe is going on first. I'll clear things up for you as best I can, Duty says, and the girl starts thinking, going from Vish to Vishanyan again. Despite being under her stealth, Longitude smiles. Good, there's still hope. The woman begins and looks around as if unsure. For the last few years, I've been slowly hearing more and more about how things are never changing. That when things reached what you wanted them to be, there was no more chance for everything. That we weren't expanding, weren't growing stronger, just sitting still so that, if it's about me, then I promise not to take any offense at this. That now that you have power, you don't want to change. That you're trying to replace the cruel makers. The girl says, and Admiral Duty sighs. Vital. You know my name? Guarding vital positions, I do know your name. You actually came out of the same gestation pod as myself. In some ways, I'm your great-great predecessor. Now, dear child, we are moving slowly and carefully because we don't want our people hurt. What you're missing is the biggest difference between the senior admiralty and the ones who abandoned us. And that is, we care. We are here because we care. We want so much for the Vishanyan to be free and strong that we even renamed our species from Vish. We are Vishanyan. We are free. We are no one's slave. Our value is in more than our use. Then why can we not leave? Excuse me? Admiral Duty asks. We can never leave. That is not what... Where is that written? Admiral Duty asks in an utterly flabbergasted tone. Articles of service and duty. None shall betray the secrets of the Vishanyan. I should not have voted against rephrasing things, Admiral Fallows says, revealing herself. Vital looks around in shock as the rest of the Admiralty reveal themselves. Vital tries to dash, but Duty has fast hands and an iron grip and keeps her there. Calm down. We're not going to hurt you. Someone is trying to destroy the Vishanyan from the inside, and we need to know how, why, and who. Duty states, please, guarding vital positions, tell us what has happened. In a coup, there is only loss. I have no desire to see any Vishanyan die, Longitude says gently, and Vital looks around them all in shock. Then what do you want? In truth, I've been looking for the makers, to get some kind of answer or justice, but they seem to be gone. But they are so absent that I can almost see them in the shadows. I want our people safe. But I don't think safe is enough, Vital says. No, it isn't, but the choice isn't entirely mine, Longitude says. I am the senior-most admiral, but I am not the unquestioned ruler of the Vishanyan. According to who? According to me, I've risen up others to my level for that very reason, Longitude says sternly. And that's gone so well, Vital says somewhat acerbically. It appeared to be going well. Is this what everyone thinks? I've heard of a lot of reasons that people aren't happy. I'd like to hear them. Scene change. Sobin ride. Price gouging son of a... Koga the younger grumbles in Japanese, and his grandfather simply watches with his head tilted in just such a way that the light shining off his glasses conceals his eyes. None from you, grandfather. Of course not still. I do think that the deal could have been reduced in price by at least 2 of those Axiom ride coins if you just wore your pants a little lower. You know, give hint of your undergarments. I am not a kunoichi. We must adjust to our circumstances, grandson. Seduction has long been a tool of the kunoichi alone. Now the shinobi must take it up as well. Besides, it's not like there were never sisters, daughters, and aunts to powerful lords that we could... Oh wait, there were, Daiju says, and Daiki sighs. Yes, grandfather, Daiki says. As he is handed the data slate, he switches back to galactic trade. Thank you, miss. He fills out the rest of the form and the ship is legally purchased. Excellent. We must purify and sanctify the vessel lest the spirits grow angry, Daiju proclaims. Grandfather, I know we call it a shrine now, but I swear to you, we are not summoning ghosts with it. Sure, we are not, grandson. I'm sure we are not. Daiju teases, you shouldn't just dismiss your grandfather like that young man. The seller chides him. Oh, thank you, dear girl, and might I say that your pelt is looking luxurious. Please no, grandfather, I do not want to even consider. Oh, that's very sweet of you, sir. But a rascal like you likely has near 1,000 brides to his name. Alas, I've outlived my loved ones. It's why I'm making sure Daiki here is so well founded in the family arts. He needs to carry on the old ways after all, Daiju says, and Daiki right eyebrow is more or less vanishing into his hairline at this point. Daiju reaches out and forces it down with a finger. Careful, it might stick there. I'm going to evaluate the new ship. You, try not to shame me, grandfather, Daiki pleads. Well, with a lady this lovely here, I'm not sure I can keep to that, Daiju purrs as he takes the hand of the filly saleswoman and offers a light kiss upon it. Sorry for the jokes, my boy, but Miss Kitty here is very distracted now, Daiju sends to Daiki as he enters the ship. We don't have to do everything in secrecy, grandfather. It's never wise to get out of practice. Besides, we do need to learn to incorporate more seduction into things, and with so many different species, we need to experiment and try new things. Sounds like an excuse to prowl for young ladies in your old age. Daiki teases, and the huff of laughter sent along the link is all the answer he needs. The ship is a retired search and rescue craft, a Tathlir industry standard. meaning fast with a very robust frame for dodging and lots of hardpoints for rescue equipment. The reason it was on the market was because several Soben-rid noble houses are upgrading to the newer model and want to recoup some losses. The ship was effectively two Vs stacked on top of each other, with the tips of the arms having engines on them. Several other Undaunted warp in with himself as the beacon as he walks through the vessel, and they start scouring the ship for any trackers or the sort. Then he heads to the first mate's room and brings out a box from his pocket. He uses it to set up some loamy earth, a bit of water, and then buries his hands in the dirt. A small bush grows along the edges. A few moments later, small glowing mushrooms start popping out of the ground and firming it up. A small tree with dark bark and leaves starts growing bonsai style in the center, and small purple flower starts blooming upon the top of it. A little garish, but we're still finding our style for these shrines, he notes to himself. Before there is suddenly a Fosa man wearing a stereotypical professor's outfit. You sure about this? A strange journey into strange stars. Navigation is important, and I am an expert. Professor Baritone explains and Daiki nods. All right then, let's get things moving, and Daiki begins to say before catching a small Alfar child who suddenly appears and tosses him back. He vanishes into the bright forest again. Not for children, not yet at any rate.